Hello. Welcome to the first week of Rhythm and Harmony here on JamPlay.com. I am Chris Lipe, one of the regular instructors here on the site. And this 10 weeks is going to be looking at how you can mold and join chords, scales, strumming, how you can join them all together using your ear and create. So this 10 weeks is really about creating. You're going to learn how to look at the neck, how to use techniques you might already know how to use, and be able to write, create, improvise a little bit. It's going to be a really, really fun 10 weeks. This first week, we're going to be looking at chords, keys, and numbers. In order for us to really get out of just playing in this area of the neck, we're going to need to, well, not just in this area of the neck in terms of chords, but also to be able to take things to different keys, to learn and understand how to use these chord shapes all over the neck in creative ways. You have to know a little bit of theory. A lot of guitar players don't like learning theory. And I agree, I don't like learning theory for theory's sake at all. But when you realize how some of these fundamental theory aspects will actually affect your playing, they're actually kind of fun to learn. So we're going to be going over some things that maybe you've heard about before, maybe you sort of understand, but I hope that by the end of this session, you're going to have a way of looking at things where you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I wish I'd thought about it that way before. So, specifically, we're going to look at the circle of fifths a little bit. You're going to understand key signatures a little bit more. And then we're going to talk about standard keys and what chords, in general, according to the major scale, work in the major scale harmony. If that sentence didn't make a lot of sense, it will soon. Let's first look at a basic one-string scale. Go ahead and pull up the D one-string scale real quick. Okay. So this is a piece of a neck, and we're just on the D string right now. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. And then, of course, it starts over again, E. If I play this scale all the way up, I'm playing a major scale. I could play that on any note, and it would be a major scale. We'll go from here. This is a B note. What I'm doing is I'm playing the right set of intervals in the right order to get the sound of a major scale. And a major scale goes whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So if we have this note here, this is C. If I go up a whole step, which is a distance of 2 frets, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. I create a major scale from any note that I start on. That's the sound of a major scale. The sound of a major scale is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So when we're looking at the key of D, which is building a major scale off of D, when you talk about a key signature, you could also think of it as the key signature means what notes does it take to build a major scale off of any given note? What notes does it take to build a major scale off of D? Well, according to our diagram, and according to the whole step, half step relationship that needs to happen for a major scale, we have the notes D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. So the key signature In D, meaning which notes does it take to create a major scale off of D, the key signature in this case is F and C. F and C are sharped. They're raised. That's the name of the note as they appear on the guitar. Therefore, the key signature of D includes F and C. So you see on some music or guitar books or whatever, you see a tablature with notation. You see on the far left-hand side, you might see a key signature where they have the little treble clef and then you have the number of sharps. And if you saw something that had 2 sharps, it would be D. That is, to me, that's a great way of thinking about major scale theory, and it's a great way of thinking about key signatures. Because you're not just having to memorize, and you should eventually memorize your key signature key, or your key signature chart. But to me, I always like to know the whys. And so, why is the key signature of E 4 sharps? Well, let's pull up the E 1-string scale and look at that. That's G. That's okay, we can do G. 1-string G scale. Why is G 1 sharp? G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. I'm doing it on 1 string because it's easy to see the whole step to half step ratio. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. In order to build a major scale off of G, you need to use 1 sharp. So that's the fundamental sort of workings behind key signatures. They're there to express which notes that are not notes that don't have a sharp or flat on them. Which notes do you need in order to build a major scale off of any given note? Does anybody have any questions about that so far? I'm not really anticipating any comments. Was that eye-opening for you in terms of how to look at that? The next thing we're going to do is pull up the key signature chart. And this is something that everybody wants to sort of memorize. Looking here, the key of C, no sharps, no flats. If you build something off of C, it is a major scale. If you use whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. G is 1 sharp. D is 2 sharps. A is 3 sharps. So in the key of E, it takes 4 sharps to build the sound of a major scale off of E. B is 5 sharps. Now let's look here. What determines whether something is a flat key or a sharp key? You know, why aren't we saying, in this case, the key of G sharp? Where's the key of G sharp? Well, the key of G sharp is the same as the key of E flat. It's called an enharmonic equivalent. Doesn't really matter that you know that name so much. But if you look around the circle, this is called the circle of fifths. And what we're doing is all we're doing is organizing. You see that C has none, and then we've ordered them in such a way that you add a sharp all the way until you can't really add any more sharps, and then you start with flats, and then you go the other way, and then you go all the way around to F, which is only 1 flat. So this is a way to organize them. It works the same way for the flat keys. To build a major scale off of F, you need to look at 1 flat. Now, why are we using a flat in F, but we use a sharp in G? Here's why. F, G, A. Now, we're calling this a B flat. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. If we were to call this not a B flat, but an A sharp, listen to how I'd be talking about it. F, G, A sharp, C. So we had an A and an A sharp. From an organizational standpoint, when we're talking about scales, we want to include every letter name. So in this case, it's easier and more sort of streamlined to look at it as though I'm lowering B a half step, so that B is still represented instead of raising A half step. and having two A's and no B. Make sense? F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. And we could do the same thing with B flat. B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat. If we were to say this is not an E flat but a D sharp, we'd have two Ds. So that's a sort of a basic rundown of how key signatures work. Why is this important? It is actually not only the building blocks of all music, but specifically it's the building blocks of harmony and how we use chords in most modern music. So we're getting through some of the sort of technical, non-musical things this period, but really the rest of this course is going to be about playing over music. We just have to get some of this stuff out of the way and make sure you understand, at least at a basic level, some of these concepts. Go ahead now and take out, or we'll put on screen, the major scale harmony. Okay, so this is the one string C major scale, which I've already played. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. But what it's doing is it's stacking notes within the key of C in intervals of thirds above each root. C. So we're taking C, E, and G. Then we're taking D, F, A. All of these notes are in the key of C. So there's no sharps or no flats. And E, G, B. This is an F major chord. F, A, C. G, B, D, A, C, E, and then this funky one is a B diminished, B, D, and then finally C again. Well, why am I not just doing this? Building the same chord, same group of notes, for the same reason that I didn't just sort of play whatever haphazard pattern up if I'm trying to create a major scale off of C. If I'm harmonizing a major scale off of any one note and if I'm saying that this is C and I'm harmonizing a major scale off of this, I have to stick with notes within the key signature. Putting those parameters on the notes I'm playing creates a certain sound, a certain harmony sound within the major scale. And the better you understand the harmony structure within a major scale, the more easily you're going to be able to figure out songs by ear, the more easily you're going to be able to assign chords to a melody, the more easily you're going to be able to create a guitar part over something that you are hearing that you want to create something a little bit different than just strum to it. So I'm going to play this again. This is a harmonized major scale. Let's listen to the different sound qualities. C, in the key of C, it's a major sounding chord, happy sounding. In the key of D, clearly minor. D minor. C, D minor. E minor. F, that's a major sound. G, major. A, minor. We're not going to worry too much about this one much longer, at least for this course, but this is a minor sound. We've also got that other note there. It's a diminished sound. And then, of course, your C, which is major. Now, because this is true not only in the key of C, but true anywhere, if we go over to D, let's say, or any note, and we harmonize a major scale all the way up, the sound qualities based on where we are in the scale are going to be the same. So here's what we're going to do. Before we move to another key, we're going to assign numbers to each note of the C major scale. The first note is going to be 1. C, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, G is 5, A is 6, B is 7, and then C, we'll just call that 1 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Go to any key, go to G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Go to any key. Let's go to E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. We don't even necessarily know what notes we're playing, but we know that we're building a major scale off of this note. We're using the correct whole steps to half steps combinations here. And we're numbering them accordingly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. If we harmonize, so we build those triads on top of them again. Let's go, so we were in C. Let's do D. We'll do 5th fret D here. So D is going to be, we have to use notes only in the key of D. So that would be a D major. That would mean we've got a 2. This is the second note of D, and it's minor. The 3rd note, when you harmonize off of it, is also minor. The 4th note, when you harmonize off of it, is major. The 5th, when you harmonize in the key of D, is also major. 6 is minor. 7 is diminished. Finally, you're back to 1, and you're major. True anywhere. We'll go back to C. 1 major, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4 major, 5 major, 6 minor, 7 diminished, 1 major. So in a major scale, the chord built off of the 1 is major. The chord built off of the 4, let's see. 1, 2, 3. Chord built off of the 4 is major. The chord built off of the 5 is major. So 1, 4, and 5, regardless of what key you're playing in, is major. And the 1 is 2 whole steps and a half step up. The 4 is 2 whole steps and a half step up from the 1. No matter what key you're playing in. This is really, really profound here and really important to keep in mind. You know, no matter which note you're playing from, in other words, which key you're playing in, the 4 chord, the 1 and the 4 chord are always major, and the 4 chord is always 2 whole steps and a half step above the 1. Add another whole step and get the 5. So if I want to play in C, C major, F major, that's an F note, to G major. The 1, the 4, and the 5 chords are C, F, G. And we know they're major because a major scale harmony says the 1, 4, and 5s are major. There's always exceptions, but we're talking about strictly major scale rules here. 1, 4, 5. If I want to, and I'm using triads, I'm using these chords so you can see it linearly, but if we go to the regular chords that we sort of all know, 1, 4, 5. We're going to refer to that as 1, 4, 5. It's no longer C, F, and G. It's 1, 4, 5. So if we go to a different key, if we go to E, we're building our one-string major scale off of the low E, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So the notes in the key of E are E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. So my 1 is E, my 4, okay, 2 whole steps and a half step up is A. See, I'm figuring all this stuff out. Very, very key to be, not just know this, but be able to figure this stuff out because you understand the roots of where it comes from. So I've got E and A for my 1, my 4, and then my 5 is B, which you can play however you like. My 1, 4, 5 in the key of E is B. All right, I've given you a lot of information. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Yeah, Roger Funk was asking if that is following the circle of fifths, what you were just doing.
Yeah, and we actually, what we did is we bring up that circle of fifths thing again.
Sure, 1 second.
What we are sort of trying to instill in this first part of the session here is that the circle of fifths is a way of organizing the information I'm giving you. It's a way of organizing the fact that in order for you to build a major scale off of D, you need 2 sharps because you always have to use whole step, half step, whole step, half step. And it just so happens that because you have to use 2 sharps, we're going to organize it in the circle of fifths, and it's going to be right there in the chart. That's sort of how that works. So this, I would say, your question was, does this follow the circle of fifths? Well, yes, sort of, but a better way to say it might be that the circle of fifths follows, it represents what must happen in order to build major scale harmony off of any given note. Does that make sense?
That's all the questions we have now, guys.
Okay.
Hey, so just a reminder, if you guys are having problems with anything, or even if you don't have a specific question, just let us know what you're having problems with, and we'll do our best to help you. I see 68 people in the chat room and
Cool.
120 on live stream. I know somebody's got to have a question about this, so let us know.
And thank you, Roger, for your question. Okay, so go ahead and pull up. I have this little handy-dandy cheat chart for you. The chords and keys, Key Transposition Table. This thing is awesome. If I want to, if I've got a chord progression that is C, F, A minor, G. C, F, A minor, G, C, F, A, G. I have the numbers right there. I know that 6 is A minor, says it right there on the chart, and you'll memorize these after a while. They're using Roman numerals to not confuse, it's just the way people do it. So this progression would be 1, 4, 6, 5. 1, 4, 6, 5. According to this chart, if I want to play 1, 4, 6, 5, I can just go down the circle of fifths, because this is organized also in the circle of fifths. I want to play 1, 4, 6, 5 in the key of G. 1, 4, 6, 5. 1. See what I'm doing? I'm just going down the chart. 6, 5, 1, or 4. 1, 4, 6, 5. Well, go to D. Do the same thing. Play 1, 4, 6, 5. 4, 6, 5. Go to A. 1, 4, 6, 5. 1, 4, 6. Let's go down to let's go to A flat. I'm going to use bar chords here because there isn't a good way to play another, 1. So 4 in this case is D flat. 1, 4. So in this case, F minor is my 6 minor. So you can play it like that. So you see the power of this chart. What we're doing is we're assigning numbers to each tone of the scale, and then accepting the fact that because of the way major scale harmony works, certain numbers, when you're sticking purely to the key signature, have a major sound, and certain numbers have a minor sound. The 1, the 4, and the 5 are always major. The 2, the 3, and the 6 are minor. I'll say that again. 1, 4, 5 major, 2, 3, 6 minor. 7 is diminished. You can know that, but we're not going to work with that a ton right now. So, bring that transposition table up again. If you've got a chord progression, I just use that one chord progression, but you've got a whole song written out, in a songbook or whatever, and it's too high for you to sing, or too low for you to sing, or someone else is singing it, or you want to just put it in a different key because you want to feel cool, you can, for now, use this key transposition chart and figure. What I would do is write out the chords that you want to put in there over the other chords, so you can see both of them. Or better yet, after you do that, write out the numbers, so you can start thinking about songs and chord progressions in terms of numbers. Once you do that, you can take a chord progression anywhere because you have the chord progression memorized. So once you memorize your key signatures based on the logic and reason of why key signatures exist, and then you associate this global language of numbering chords, you can play in any key, you can transpose, and there's a lot more that we're going to show you over the course of the next few weeks in terms of why this is so cool. You will actually be able to, and we're going to do this, we're going to practice this, you will actually be able to listen to a song, and without even picking up your guitar, after a while, after you practice for a while, you'll be able to know what the chords are in terms of numbers, simply because you're going to know the intervals, you're going to know the way it sounds to move, for example, from the 1 to the 4 chord, or the 2 to the 5 chord, or the 6 back to the 1. You're gonna start as we do this more and more, and you're gonna use these tools, these same tools that I'm showing you. We're gonna come back to over and over and over again as helper tools to help us train our ears as we keep going through this. So I'm going to stop for more questions. That's a lot of information. If there are no questions, then I'm just going to leave. No.
If there's no questions, we'll talk about the pros and cons of fracking until there is a question. All right, so we do have a question from Roger Funk, and he says, so in the major scale by the circle of fifths, there are 3 sharps, right?
In the A major scale, there are 3 sharps. Yes. Pull up that, that. This tells you there are 3 sharps, or it tells you how many sharps are in each, how many sharps or how many accidentals, how many sharps or flats are needed to build a major scale off of any one of those notes. And this is really valuable. So how many sharps does it take to build a major scale off of E? 4. How many flats does it take to build a major scale off of D flat? 5. Now here's where it gets kind of cool. This isn't written in there, but there's an order to sharps and an order to flats. So just by, if you're looking at this chart, if something has 3 sharps, I can tell you what those 3 sharps are. I could go figure it out like I showed you earlier, or I could know the order of sharps. The order of sharps follows, coolly enough, the circle of fifths. The order of sharps is F, C, G, D, A, E, B. So if you have 2 sharps, those 2 sharps are going to be F and C. If you have 3 sharps, they're going to be F, C, and G. Because again, the order of sharps is F, C, G, D, A, E, B. If you have something that has 4 sharps, you know those sharps, it's going to always start with F. F, C, G, and D. So what's the key signature of E? It's 4 sharps, F, C, G, and D. There's other acronyms you can use too, like fat cows go dancing at every ball. That follows F, C, G, and D. Father Charles goes down at end of battle. The order of flats, if you want to figure out how many, E flat, what are those numbers? Or what are those flats, or those notes that need to be flatted? You could figure it out like I showed you earlier, or you could acknowledge the order of flats, which is reversed from the order of sharps. The order of flats is B, E, A, D, G, C, F. So it's the order of sharps reversed. F, C, G, D, A, E, B is the order of sharps. B, E, A, D, G, C, F is the order of flats. So how many flats are in A flat? 4 according to this chart. What are they? Well, if the order of flats is B, E, A, D, G, C, F, the first 4 flats are B, E, A, D. So the key signature of A flat is 4 flats, B, E, A, D. It's all about interpreting the chart and knowing why, which we've covered both now. So if you want to remember these without the chart, that Father Charles goes down at end of battle. If you want to, you can actually reverse that Father Charles thing. B, E, A, D, G, C, F. Battle ends and down goes Charles, father. You could do the same thing. Battle ends and down goes Charles, father. Father Charles goes down at end of battle. There's an of in there, but this should help you remember these things. Roger, does that clear up the key signatures thing for you?
I will watch the chat for his answer. We have another question from Steve Jones.
Cool.
He says, I'm playing a song in C major and all the chords follow your pattern.
Excellent.
Then it goes into an A major chord and then it will go back to your chord formula. I don't understand why. Is this a key change?
If it goes, so then it goes between A major chord and then it'll go back to the chord formula. If it is a rogue chord, and this sort of thing happens all the time, we're going to cover a lot of this later in the series, so it's very good that you already have these questions brewing. That's just an accidental. Someone thought it sounded cool and they did it. It's not a key change if it goes back to the original formula within the context of the song, and it's just sort of that one chord. So I don't know what song it is, but if you're doing, you got C, G, F. And then it goes to A major 7. That's really cool sounding. If it were to go then to a D major or an E7, then you would have changed keys to A. But if you're just doing something that, and then maybe an N, there's some really cool melody things that can happen there. That's a really cool sound. Cool Jeff Buckley sort of sound. But that's just, it's an accidental. Someone thought it sounded cool and it went there. If there are other chords that suggest the key of A, then you would have been modulating. But you're going to see those all the time, and there are going to be exceptions like that. We're going to get into more of that. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But it doesn't devalue knowing the major scale formula, because you're going to be able to get all those other chords with your ear because you know the formula. And then some of these oddballs you can hunt and peck for and get them, you know. So very good question. And I have a lot more examples like that we'll cover later in later weeks. So definitely stay tuned.
Roger Funk says that you helped him out with this question.
Cool.
We don't have any more questions now. Guys, can you post in the chat to make sure everyone's working okay? Everything's working okay? Because there's a lot of people here and it's unusually quiet. So I just want to make sure that nobody has any problems or that the chat's working okay for you. So please, please, I beseech you, do it for me.
Wait a couple minutes here, and then what we're going to do next is we're just going to play through on the guitar using common keys, and we're going to number them.
Are you saying now or next week?
Now.
Okay, yes.
But I was waiting to see if...
Yeah, there's a bunch of people responding. I guess.
Okay, cool.
I guess they're just watching. So
it must be explained in a way that is able to be taken in.
Well, okay, before we move on to the next section, Slip and Lizard says you're looking buff. Thank you for inflating his ego one notch.
Thank you. It's really just that the shirt is it's shrunk. Yeah. It's too small now.
There's a bunch of people that says they're listening, they're taking notes.
Cool.
Look at those guns, probably curls 40 pounds. Does it ever bother you that everyone is obsessed with your exercise routines?
I wouldn't say 2 people out of 70
but like,
is...
Chris, our other coworker, loves to comment on you. And
yeah, he's the one who started it.
Yeah. Maybe for the contest, Chris can...
No, we're not doing any of that anymore.
Also, really quick before we get to the next section, that guitar that Chris is holding, we're giving away on July 5th.
July 5th is our giveaway. We're calling it our annual Independence Day sale giveaway, I guess. And it is going to be from noon Eastern Time to midnight Eastern Time. We're going to be going a long time, giving away 7 total guitars, a bass, a few pedals, and we've got a lot of guests. So it's going to be a fun time, all-day event. Make sure you check it out. All right. Go ahead and bring up the key transposition table again. Jeff, that's the wrong one.
I heard you. Thank you, Sonny boy.
So we're just going to go through the numbers, and you're going to start to see some of these keys are very common. And you've used these keys, you've played in them. We're going to leave off 7 right now. We're just going to stick to the majors and the minors. So C, and I'm just going to refer to them as numbers now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's C major. 1, 2, 3. You should be doing this right along with me. This is really powerful if you haven't done this yet. 4, 5, 6. What's the 6th chord in the key of C? A. Major, minor? Minor. That's what you want to start doing. Memorize this. Let's go to G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is the 5 chord in the key of D, or key of G? Give it away. It's D. Okay, key of D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Key of D again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Key of A. 1, 2. Some more bar chords here. 3. C sharp minor is 3. 4, 5, 6. So those are your common keys. Oh, we got more. Let's go to E. E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. E again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go down to the key of F, another common key. 1, 2, 3. A minor can also be here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. B flat. 5, 6. What's the sixth chord in the key of F? D minor. It's one of those things you wouldn't know right away necessarily. So this is a very powerful table, a very powerful chart. If you can do this and start assigning numbers in each key, you're going to be really, really way ahead of the game in ear training. And you don't have to have this mastered by next week by any stretch. What you do need to do is start looking at it every day. Check out the guided practice and follow the directions in the guided practice. That will help you get acclimated to this way of thinking a bit more. So numbers are amazing. They're the way we're going to be talking about chords for the next 10 weeks. Next week, we're going to be looking at the power of a capo in the contexts of numbers. In the context of what we've learned and started to learn this week, we're going to show you how the combination of capo and numbering is just awesome. So we're going to be doing that next week. And then throughout the rest of the course, starting with week 3, we get to do a lot of listening, a lot of music listening, and a lot of analyzing. Given what we will have covered in those first 2 weeks, with the capo, with the numbers, you're going to start really, really developing your ear. Your ear, it will develop quickly if you're following the guided practice, if you're tracking with me week by week. And when you start to hear some of this stuff, you're not only going to be able to hear chord changes, but you're going to be able to start to identify, that sounds sort of like a D chord, but it's not being played in D, but it's a D shape somewhere. We're going to get into all that stuff. It's really, really cool stuff. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to blend these ideas of rhythm, harmony, ear training, songs, scales. All these things are being blended together in this series. That's the end of the planned content for this. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to stick around and answer questions. They can be general or they can be specifically about what we've covered.
We have a question from Canyon Hiker who asks, why is the 5 chord sometimes a major and sometimes a 7th? Is it just the sound that you're going for?
Very excellent and applicable, wonderful question. All you're doing is expanding the harmony a bit more. Let's check it out. So let's go back to our C scale, or our C chord. Any one of these chords could be a 7th chord. If we stack thirds on top of this, in the key of C, mind you, we've got C, E, G, and then if we go up another third, because we're stacking thirds, that's what the basics of chords is. C, E, G, B. B, even though it's a third above from the 5th, that's the 7th of C. Now notice we're not using B flat, because B flat doesn't exist in the key of C. We're using B. So that's a major 7 chord. So we're just extending the harmony up. if we go up to the next one, E or D minor, and we were to add a third above the fifth, in this case, I can't really reach it in this case, but it would be a D minor 7. It'd sound like this. We're stacking thirds on top of this D chord. So the 7th in this case, in this chord, if we're even though C is the 1 of the key, it is the 7th. It's the 7th in the D chord that's in the key of C. So we would need a C, which would actually be like this, if we were doing it. But that's really hard to play, so we're doing this. So if we go up to the 5 chord, in the key of C, would be G. We'll walk it up. C, D, E, F, G. So what we're doing is we're just continuing the harmony up. In other words, the 7th is always there. A third above that would be an F. Right here. Now, it's an F. It's not an F sharp. It's not an F sharp because F sharp doesn't exist in the key of C. It's an F. When you stack thirds off of a 5 chord in any key, it's going to give you this sound, which is a dominant 7th sound, which is a 7th chord. If you stack thirds off of the 4th chord, if you stack 4 thirds on top of each other, it's going to give you not the dominant, because look at this. So here we've got F, A, C. That note doesn't work. That note is not in the key of C. That's a D sharp. D sharp does not exist in the key of C, so it needs to be a D. I'm sorry, that's wrong. It doesn't need to be a D. It needs to be an E. That would be the correct third stack on the 7th chord. So those are always there, and you can continue that up. After the 7th, you get the 9th. After the 9th, you get the 11th. You know, you're going up stacking thirds everywhere. But that's why the 5 chord, when you carry that harmony beyond just those first 3 notes, it gives you that unique quality of it being a dominant 7th chord. Hopefully that explained it adequately, but that's how it works. Very good question.
Sweet. Let us know if you have any other questions. Mimontesinos, the email address. Do you recommend memorizing the transposition table?
I do recommend it.
If you do you think there's a time period that they should strive to do this for, or just?
You should look at it all. You should look at it as much as you can during your practice sessions. And if you follow what I've laid out here in the live session as well as the guided practice, you're going to want to refer to it. And the more you refer to it, it's not like you want to sit there and stare at it. It's that you sort of want to use it. You know, go through what I've outlined here as you're playing songs that you know, you've got a chord chart. Get it out and relate them to numbers. And it's about applying the key transposition table. And as you apply it over and over again, you then will memorize it, right? It's like learning to drive. You know, you don't memorize a book about driving. You just drive. And then you eventually, a lot of things become habit. Hopefully, like texting or something is not part of that habit when you're driving.
I memorized the book on driving. And that's all I did. I never practiced.
And you are a fantastic driver.
Yes. Okay, so Canyon Hiker said that you helped him out.
Cool.
Any other questions, guys? They can be a little more generic if you need, since we're at the end of the lesson here and it wouldn't interrupt anything. And if not, we will get on out of here. So we'll just wait another couple minutes. Are you just going to stare awkwardly at the camera?
I'll stare awkwardly at you.
Oh. That's weird.
Stare at the camera, too.
Stare at the camera.
Yeah. So guys, next week, like I said, we're going to be working with capos in light of this numbering. And if you attend each week, we're going to be referring back to the transposition table. We're going to be referring back to these things. So even the act, I'm not saying you shouldn't practice, but even the act of being immersed in this stuff over the next 10 weeks is going to be a large step in you guys applying and therefore memorizing some of this stuff.
Okay, what's up? Jeff Barry says, do songs in a given key generally start and resolve to the one chord?
Generally. I've heard a lot of songs, a lot of songs end on 4. But a lot of songs will start and end on the one chord. And that's the thing, and we'll hear some of that stuff later on in the series here. Even if it starts on the 4 and ends on the 4, because of the combination of chords that you're hearing and then figuring out and playing, you are going to be able to find the one chord because of the combinations. Oh, that one's major, that one's minor, that one sounds, how many whole steps away from the root, and is it major or minor? Once you kind of apply all this and you're listening, even if it doesn't start on the 1, you're going to be able to figure it out.
All right, since I'm not ready with the graphic yet, we will just ask this one. Jay Caputo, he says doesn't really understand the transposition table and was wondering if you could offer him a little help.
So what we're doing is we're saying, in the key of, let's just take C. In the key of C, these are the chords that you can play and still be off of each degree of the scale. So the numbers, if we play a scale all the way up, and if this still doesn't make sense after I've done this part, go back and watch the beginning of the event because we talk about this a little bit more in depth. The 1, so we're doing C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Those are the numbers. We've numbered the major scale all the way up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So when we build a chord off of the 1, and we're just looking at C right now on the transposition table, it's going to be a C major. When we build a chord off of the 2, off of a D, or a D, anywhere on the neck, if you build a chord off of the 2 in the key of C, it's going to be a D minor. Not a D major, a D minor. If you build a chord in the key of C off of E, it's going to be an E minor, and so on and so forth. So off of the 4th note in the key of C, which is F, that's going to be a major chord. Hopefully that, and then so you can take that to any key. The key transposition table is an expression of the theory that we talked about at the beginning of the lesson. If you don't fully grasp the theory, that's okay. You've got the table to sort of get your feet wet and get into it a little bit. And then gradually, as you apply this more and more, you're going to make the connection between the theory we discussed, the transposition table, and then the application to playing the music.
Let us know if that helps, Mr. Caputo. Awkward silence.
Oh, it's not awkward. It's contemplative.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No other questions right now. While Jay Caputo is answering, Steve Jones wrote back in live stream, the gentleman earlier who was talking about the song with the chord that switched to A, whatever. He says the song was "Lying Eyes" by the Eagles. So I don't know if he was asking for any further help, but I figured I'd pass that message along to you.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Okay, Jay Caputo says he understands. Glambert171 says, thanks for your time.
Sure.
Last chance, guys. We'll give you like another 30 seconds to pop out a question. And if not, we will see you on the flip side. Ooh, also, a reminder, and I don't know if we've actually made the forum thread yet. If not, I will do that after this event is done. We do have an area on the forum for those of you who cannot make it live to ask questions. If you post a question in the forum for this event, we will answer it on the next video session next week so that you can get all of the interaction your little heart desires.
There we go. And if you send me a private message on the site, I can answer questions that way too. I check those weekly.
The forum thing is also pretty good if you think of something while you're watching the guided practice.
Right. Yeah, very good.
Okay. Beklensman, I don't quite understand your question. It says I'm still meditation on whole half. I'm guessing you got auto corrected there. Can you type your question out again? Did you just mean you're confused? And then while you're doing that, PSI next says maybe I missed it, but can you explain the six or the seventh with the star?
Oh, the seventh is the little with the little circle there. Just it's the way of saying diminished. We are for purposes of application and not wanting to confuse too much. Really it's a diminished chord built off of the seventh degree of the major scale. So C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A, B diminished, C. It's there because it completes everything, but we're not really going to be applying the seventh tone in this course. We're going to be working with 1 through 6.
Okay. So B. Klinsman was just saying he's still meditating on the formula. So
Okay, cool.
he's
Yeah,
just working on memorizing
whole, half, whole, half.
it.
That's
Okay.
what creates any major scale.
Yes, and then the power of the major scale will be yours to attack the musical world with.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Sinex, if that resolved your issue, I think we're gonna say goodbye. So if you could just leave us a note if that answered your question, and if not, if it did, I should say, we will bid you all a fond adieu. Roger Funk says, thanks, guys. Big help.
Good.
There was a bunch of other compliments. Thank you for your time. Awesome. Earlier that I didn't read.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys.
All right.
This
Yep,
has been a good event. We'll see you next week.